earlier when I can be more fully in depth on this subject, because there's a whole lot of illusions about Africa's relationship with other people in the world. There's a whole lot of illusion about our relationship to the religions in the world. And these belief systems that had its origin in Africa, all of them, and there is no exception, turned on African people. I said there is no exception. And there's one thing you have to get through your mind and keep it. Nothing that ever came from the European mind was meant to do anything but facilitate European domination of the world. And I said,
yeah, stop right there. So
it's a good place.
The relationship, huh?
I said that's a good place to stop.
Yeah. I mean, you could have stopped at the first word. But African people's relationship with the rest of the world. Right now, we are not in a position in any position to dictate anything on our behalf, because we don't have any infrastructure in place, any power in place, any system in place, any congruency in place. We have ideas. We have shells of things that may have existed, or just even momentum and energy and maybe resources that were going to things that could have existed. But our relationship with other people in the world is a relationship of, we need other people in the world as of right now, because this is the position that we have ourselves in, because we're not doing what we need to do as a whole to self-actualize, to be an autonomous group of people, to be a truly independent group of people, to be able to sustain ourselves. And so it's almost like we're in a position where we have to be buddy, and we have to try to assimilate even with other groups of people, especially the dominant groups of people here in America, for our own survival, because we refuse to do it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I know, like this. That's a dense piece, because when you think about what he's saying, one of the things that we commonly hear repeated and projected and presented and all of these other things, especially in pro-Black circles, is that there is some system in place somewhere that has managed to go through time and history without being influenced by white people, that we can access here and utilize. And religion is frequently one of those things. And this goes back to one of the things we talked about last time we did a breakdown. The misnomers and the myths and the confusions surrounding spirituality, surrounding African traditional religious systems and spiritual systems, and surrounding some of the meshes of spiritual systems here in the United States. This idea that we can take what is African and remove what is European and strictly stick to what is African is something that I don't think a lot of people think about. And it's something that I don't see. Then we get into a whole different conversation about whether or not that's even possible. But you know, it all goes into what he's saying with regards to every system that has been put in place that we're aware of today, with no exception, has been used against Black
African people, right, to dominate.
Right. And then when you add in his other statement of there is nothing that has come from a European mind that is meant to do anything but facilitate dominate. European domination. And see, here's the rub, right? European domination and African subjugation oftentimes are very similar, but they're not always the same thing. And this goes into understanding the motives and the dynamics of your enemy. Sometimes when you're in a battle with people with multiple enemies, you got to
Yeah.
figure out how to strategically maneuver around the plans and things that they've laid out. And it's hard to do that if you don't fully understand the intentions of the person that's, you know what I'm saying?
Well, that goes back to what I'm saying is our relationship with other people in the world, in my opinion, because especially us on this side of the slave trade, not necessarily pre-colonial slave trade, but post-colonial slave trade.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, because we continue to view, and we have no choice, but we looking through the lens of conquered people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost as if, okay, well, we need these specific relationships to be able to strengthen ourselves. And one thing we keep realizing with these relationships is whether the relationship is built through commerce, through religion, through war, through anything else, is conquest is not going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Conquest is a reality. Conquest is a historical reality of what really happens when a group of people find themselves faced with what they deem as a weaker group of people. And because, once again, like I said earlier, because we have never, especially us in the West, no real self-actualization, no real infrastructure in place, there's no real Black, African, anything for us. We have small factions of it, but it's no real infrastructure in place. So we are continuing to look at other people as, with our hands out and looking up, hey, we need help, we need help, we need help, rather than realizing that it's enough of us to do what we need to do for us. We just got to want to do it as a whole. And also, on the religion point, it's they take they studied us and they was able to take advantage of how we relate with religion and how we see the
Mm-hmm.
world through religion, and how religious we are, and how important, or how strong belief is within the systems that we adopt, whether it's an
Mm-hmm.
African system or it's a Western system or Judeo-Christian system. Like Dr. Clarke even said this, like we out religious everybody in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but we do that to our own detriment, because he's saying we're taking these bastardized versions of these religions or these spiritual systems that came out of Africa. We taking these bastardized versions, and we are just wholeheartedly, blindly believing in these things. And that's why, like, he coupled with the Europeans didn't give us anything to help us uplift ourselves. They're not going to give us religion to help us uplift ourselves. They're going to give us a religion that's going to be a tool in their toolkit to help them dominate and continue to stay dominant.
And that builds into the conversation we had about culture and like I said earlier, the conversation we had about religion. Like one of the things, and you say this all the time, and I agree with it. Life is struggle, right? And
Yep.
even if it's not a physical conflict, you got to think about the cultural wars that are going on right now. You think South Koreans aren't aware of the impact and the influence that K-pop is having all over the world? That has become their number one export, their culture. And
Yeah.
look at the impact that that's having on even black kids here in America, that
Yeah.
are in love with K-pop bands, in love with Asian culture. We're seeing the spread of
The
anime,
anime. Yeah.
right? Which is Japanese culture. Like anytime two groups of people come into contact with each other,
You're gonna
even if
influence
it's
each other.
peaceful,
You're gonna
right?
influence each other.
There's going to be a struggle. There's going to be influence. There's going to be an exchange. And we have to be able to objectively and honestly look at that. And that's where it goes back into the point that I was saying, because I agree with you. The lens that we look at the world through is that of a former slave that was only knows oppression and being conquered. We can talk about the history all we want. Yes, we know the history is there. We haven't experienced that.
Right.
What we've experienced is this. So we look at the world through this lens, and I don't think people pay enough attention. And this is one of the things I love about Dr. Wilson and Dr. Clarke, is they spend a lot of time talking about the lens that things are viewed through. And to put it into another perspective, even those of us that are doing a tremendous amount of research on Black history, Black scholars, Black this, Black that, Black this, Black that, most of us are doing that research through Google. The information we have access to is controlled by what Google allows us to see. That's the frame that I like to use when I start talking about lenses. Where are you getting your information? How do you have access to that information? And what is the full spectrum of availability in terms of perspectives? That's that lens piece, and we got to really begin to take that seriously. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but what that's real though. We do have to really take a look at how we view the world and why we view the world through that particular lens. And okay, is this worldview of ours actually helping us? And if we need to change this worldview, how do we change this worldview, and what do we change it to? So yeah. So, but let's let Dr. Clarke keep going.
There's no exception.
No exception.
No exception.
Everything that was brought into this continent, everything, every idea, every so-called religion was meant to dominate and to control. The Arabs had no illusions about it. The Europeans had no illusions about it. You were the ones with the illusions. And yet every element that went into the making of every major religion in the world started in Africa. Why is it that you are so naive? You let people redress something that you invented, sell it back to you, and enslave you through it.
Well, and not to necessarily harp on religion, because I want us to look at religion as the tool. The religion was the tool to ultimately gain what? And I think that's how we need to be thinking about this, because he's laying it out beautifully. But what was the ultimate goal? Why was it so important for Black people in America to become Christian? So from my understanding, from my information, it's to be able to better control us, to make us docile, to lessen the revolt of the people. Now, I didn't totally do that, but we can see how Christianity, Islam, Judaism, all these religious paths or spiritual systems that Black people have adopted here in the West, at one point in time in history, or at times in history rather, we've had individuals or groups who, even though they had a religious view, they were still able to spark revolution, still able to revolt, still able to not see or not go through the lens of we need to be peaceful, we all need to hug, we need forgiveness, we need to be, no docile nature, right? But look at us now, because it's like something we used to always talk about. Our generation, we talk so much junk. You know, going back to that, we're not our ancestors. We'll put these hands on you. No, we won't. What Dr. Clarke is explaining in his lecture that happened maybe over 30 years ago is still true to this day, because religion has been used to make Black people docile. All Black people's biggest weapon is talking junk. The world knows it. We think it's powerful, but everybody else, they like, you have no real power. You have no real power, because we've been made docile through a lot of the systems that have given us. You got to admit that religion is one of the systems that have used to make us docile. And it was to make us docile to maintain power and control over the group of people that you just conquered. Think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's been laid out in numerous books, numerous lectures, numerous case studies, how religion has been used to control the masses. You know, the
Yeah.
opiate of the masses. And this is going back all through history. And one of the things we got to understand is every cultural system is about controlling acceptable behavior. We just have to make sure that the cultural systems that we are abiding by are those that have our best interest at heart,
That
that
we
have
created.
right, that we created, that have our best interest at their core purpose. So it's not, I don't want people, because here's the thing, right? And this goes back to what I was saying earlier. This idea that just because something was created in Africa by Africans, that that it somehow can't be used to hurt us. And that's
Hmm.
what I was trying to get at, was, but I didn't want to cut off the lecture. But he just said it there. But it's one of those things where you hear people saying, you'll hear people talking about we'll even use things outside of religion. We'll talk about the sovereign citizen movement. You know, you hear people talking about the sovereign citizen movement, a movement that has gained a tremendous amount of steam over the last 20, 30 years. You know, you hear a lot of the people, the Hebrews, the Moors, all of them talking about this. You just got to you got to understand the legal
Yeah,
documents and this, that, and the third.
yeah.
And then but when you look at where a lot of the ideas that are currently being used in the sovereign citizenship movement as it relates to the Black nationalist or the Black power area, those ideas were rooted in the 40s, 50s, and 60s amongst white people who were mad at the growing social power of Black people and wanted to make the case that there was no possible way, because of the 14th Amendment, that Black people could be citizens. So the rules and regulations that Black people are now spouting as groundwork that can allow them to gain some level of freedom are in fact rules that were created by people that were saying that Black people could never use these rules because of the 14th Amendment. Now, never mind the fact that none of the stuff is legitimate. I'm going to say that. And if you got a beef with it, that's whatever it is, what it is. None of the stuff is real. None of the stuff is legitimate. A lot of people done tried that sovereign citizenship stuff and they sitting in a jail cell right now. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
But go ahead.
well, at the end of the day, how many times have we said this? Sovereignty has to be recognized
Yeah.
and respected. You
Right.
what do you how much ass can you kick? Because if you can't kick nobody ass, nobody gonna respect you calling yourself sovereign. Because guess what? I got an army. I can kick ass. I could just come take your stuff. That's how the world works. You could be sovereign all you want to. Say it. You can say it, scream it. But can you protect your sovereignty? If you can't protect your sovereignty, you just talking. And
Well,
if a
yeah.
larger nation want you and your stuff, they can come take it because you can't protect yourself.
Well, we see an example of that right now. Ukraine was a recognized sovereign nation.
Yep.
Look what Russia did.
Yep.
And here's the key part of that. This is something that I think needs to flip. Everything needs to be flipped over. Here's the issue with the sovereignty movement, with respect, with a lot of the things we have. Those are things that are recognized by others. They're not things that you can claim and demand. You can claim and demand all you want. If somebody chooses not to respect your claims or demands and runs up on you, what are you
Now what
going
you
to
gonna
do
do?
about it?
Right.
And here's the thing, right? Even if you can put that person down, put that country down in the case of nations, it's still something that the other nations have to make a decision not to do, because they could keep running up on you and getting hands put on them. They could make that decision. Respect is not something that's claimed, it's something that's given by other people. You can do things to make yourself more respectable, but at the end of the day, if I choose not to respect you, there's nothing you can do to get that from me. And it's the same with sovereignty. At the end of the day, you could claim to be sovereign, But if other people don't recognize your sovereignty, it doesn't
Don't matter.
matter. And it's the same thing with power and with all of these other things. So when we're looking at, because a big part of our culture, based on our spiritual beliefs nowadays, is claim it. You can claim all you want. If other
That's not the
people
real
don't
world.
respect that claim, it means nothing. And I think a big part of understanding that worldview is, again, this lens piece, being able to see the world, like you said, being able to see the real world for what it is.
Right. But I also think, going back to religion though, that's another thing that religion has done to harm us, because it's given us cloudy vision, because we see the world through hopes and dreams, through the lens of ideas, hopes, and dreams. This is what it should be. I hope it's this. I want it to be this. Well, it's ideal for it to be this. But in all actuality, we have not done the proper work to make these things a reality for us. It's on us to do it. All we have to do is choose. Like we said in the past, start in your community, start in your city. Just work together, organize, work together. The power is going to grow eventually. And we have to move in silence. We have to move in silence. We are behind enemy lines. So we can't be out here organizing and building power and telling everybody. You're going to get shut down.
Well, and real quick, one thing I'll say, because I do agree. I think one of the things that we have got to do is, I just forgot what I was gonna say. Damn it! This is why I write shit down. I just what because I was listening to you. What were you saying?
Basically, like religion has given us a cloudy view of the world.
Yeah, religion is given. Oh, that's right. That's what it was. Because I was listening to you, and then I started thinking, and then I started listening again, and I forgot what I was thinking about. I got it. All right. 3, 2,
2,
1. That's for the editing, so you can see the 3 blips. That's what you do. Anyways, so but I think one of the things is that we have to recognize is, again, we go back to the lens, right? Religion gives us a cloudy lens. Religion was given to us, right? We still have the lens of slaves.
Yeah.
We still talk in terms of hopes and dreams. Cedric the Entertainer had a skit years ago. You know, everybody my age remember it. Black people live by the wish factor.
I wish a mother would.
Right. And we always talking about our hope, I wish, I dream, I got aspirations, I got goals, I got this,
manifestation.
I got that. Right. Everything is geared towards some future heaven. And religion is in that as well. A prime tenet of most major denominations of Christianity is you suffer on earth so that you can enjoy heaven in the next life. We got to really think about what that means to actually live that philosophy.
Yeah, suffer on earth,
right?
And everything will be good when you die.
To think that your greatest days are in front of you because it can't get any worse than it is right now, and to just accept that.
I say this: the conquered believe that, the conquerors don't, because the conquerors are living their greatness and experiencing their abundance and all that now while they're alive. So you can that's an easy way to put that to bed. Conquered people believe that, conquerors don't.